conversation after that.
Thank you, Governor, for being here and modeling how important this work is. And when we looked at implementing LEARNS and making sure we were doing things right as a state, implementing the science of reading, making sure every kid can read at above grade level, we knew that our teachers and schools need a lot of support. And setting up this vision with a statewide literacy coaching program to kind of calibrate professionals and provide direct support to teachers in classrooms was something we wanted to get right. And some of you may remember when we first started meeting, and I've been fortunate, Governor, to meet with this group. Every time I hear they're meeting together, I will share a secret. I find out what day is potluck day, and then I just randomly show up.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
So I don't know if you noticed, but today's potluck day. That was kind of perfectly timed, but every time they meet, they give me a chance to talk to them and engage with them. And when I tell you, these are the best of the best in the state. These are truly remarkable teachers, and we're so lucky to have them sharing their expertise with other teachers and growing our profession. I always say if my dream one day is to go back to being like a high school principal or an elementary principal one day at the end of my career, I was like, I'm hiring all of y'all to be my team, and we're going to do amazing work for kids.
Will every day be potluck day?
Every day will be potluck day. But some of you have been on this journey with us from day one, and I think it'd be interesting as we have these conversations about who was here in cohort one. There's some folks here, and then we added some new faces in cohort two. Okay, and then this year some new people in cohort three. So who's our first year being a coach? Thank you for making this commitment and for being with us today. So I'm excited. Because one, it's potluck day, and two, that y'all are meeting, and I was going to come and talk with you, but then I was like, Governor Sanders hasn't met with this group in a while. I think it'd be great to hear from you about why this work's so important, and then learn from you as what can we do as a state. Because when we talk about improving learning, we're not talking about improving learning 3, 5, 7 years from now. We need to see rapid growth in our schools right away. And we have doubled down and said we're going to eliminate failure. And we're going to make sure that every classroom has the resources and support they need so that every student can excel beyond their fullest potential. And y'all are making that happen. And if there's things that we can do to make it go faster, that's why we're here.
Great. I think one question is, are you actually bringing anything to the potluck?
Personality. I'm bringing spirit and joy, the Christmas spirit.
I don't think you guys should let him off so easily.
I have a pack of gum.
At least, stop and pick something up on your way.
Is anybody thirsty?
Even if it's not homemade, I feel like you can grab like a box of cookies.
When Buc-ee's opens, y'all are getting some fudge at the next one. Okay, that one I can make happen.
Fair enough. Somebody hold them accountable. Well, I'd love to hear, and I know there's a group at the table, but even from around, feel free to jump in. But what so far are you seeing as both kind of the biggest struggle areas that we really need to continue to lean into and focus on? And what are the things that you think are really working, where you can feel a difference, where you can see it firsthand, that we should maybe either invest more in or just stay out of your way and let you keep doing what you're doing if it's working? And nobody be shy. I know this isn't a shy group, so I can at least see enough names that I can call on people if I have to. But.
One thing I want to brag on for my team is when we're starting a new coaching cycle, they have a building goal that they align with the principal. So that the building is on the same track from leadership down, and the individual goals that they have with the teachers are based on student outcomes. So even if we're seeing those practices where teachers improve, we're looking at student data to see if the goal was met. So, and that might be the end of module assessment, that might be the weekly assessments within coding, but there's a student piece that determines if the teacher met their goal and if the building is meeting theirs.
And both the student and the teacher have access to that information, or is it the teacher only?
So with the building goal, it is shared with the principal, and the principal is part of deciding that is the building goal based on the data that they have. And so the teacher has access to that goal, and the building leader also.
I know there have been a couple of the school visits that Jacob and I have done, and they have kind of like a growth chart almost that we have seen schools start to utilize, where the students get to, in some cases, come in and actually move their marker up, and having kind of a very large visual has in the schools that we visited, they seem to really utilize that, and it's shown to be pretty successful. Have y'all noticed that the students not only seeing where they are, but also seeing where other kids in their school are, if that makes a difference? When I first saw it, I was like, oh, that feels kind of like it would, I mean, it might hurt my feelings if I wasn't like,
Yours is at the top. You'll be at the
but
top.
maybe it's also a motivator. I was like, is it like more difficult, or is that something y'all found that motivates students to go a little harder and a little faster? And I know every school's different, and some do that and some don't, so.
I know in the coaching conversations that I've seen, it's been huge with them being able, like just the other day, I was at Harris Elementary, and one of my coaches was working with the kindergartners have been struggling with blending and segmenting was the skill, and they had about 20% of students that were doing it successfully. The coach went in, did active coaching throughout, helped to plan with the teacher to implement those changes, and then they jumped to 80% in that coaching conversation. So they were able, the teacher was able to get that buy-in by looking at the student data that this worked and being able to reflect on, like, what did we do to get students to jump from 20% to 80% in that process of looking at student data during those conversations.
Yeah.
I love the idea of getting students involved in the data as well, and understanding what they need to know and improve. I've not seen schools use it, post data for students to look at on a wall for teachers, but not for students. I have seen them use folders, student folders, and the student would go into their folders and move based on the movement that they've made in a particular area.
My school has shifted to more student-led parent-teacher meetings, and so that students are actually giving the information to their parents. They're actively involved. They have the data binders, and that's also directly related to their IRP goals.
I would like my kids to be involved in that, because getting information sometimes from my children can be very difficult. How was your day? Fine.
Yeah. What did you learn?
Do? Nothing. I'm like, you've been there 8 hours. Surely you did something. So maybe that's the ticket.
I was at a school last year, and they moved from a D-letter grade to a B-letter grade, and they focused on individual student growth and the teachers conference with the students and met with them about their goals, so that they could see, even if they didn't meet, exceeding, they were still making personal growth and personal gains. And I feel like that was huge, and that the kids, took ownership of that, and the teachers talked with them about what they could do to move up. And that was really huge in that school.
Which school was that? Do you mind?
Manila.
Where was it?
In Manila.
Okay.
The district I'm in uses student-led conferences, and they also have proficiency scales for the standards that they created. So there's a lot of power in letting a student self-assess on those proficiency scales. Do I feel like I'm here, 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 and then conferencing with the teacher as far as like, maybe if I've taken some formative data, the teacher reteaches that skill next week, and then students are able to reassess and say, did I move on this proficiency skill toward the mastery level? So that's been some great work for students kind of getting into not necessarily tracking their data, but tracking their own progress.
What about the teachers? Do they seem, for the most part, really receptive to the additional instruction and support that you're bringing into their schools, into their classrooms? Or does it feel like there's a reluctance, or is it, thank you, please come help? What's been the kind of experience?
Mixed bag over my 3 years. So, I mean, depending on the day, the teacher, whatever else is going on, and I think it always comes back to setting up that positive relationship, that supportive relationship, that respective relationship, where I'm not coming in saying, I'm here to help you. I'm here to leverage all these great things that you're already doing, and how can we make it even better? And drawing on that and grounding it in data is a really good way to build a lot of buy-in for know, they say, oh, look at your report card, your growth scores are up here. They're great, but your achievement is here. That shouldn't be happening. So what do we need to do? You know, what's our next step? And they're like, oh, okay, let's do it. So for the most part, I've gotten a pretty positive reaction, you know, and especially once the work starts, it kind of seems like they're like, oh, okay, you're not here to get me. Like, let's do this. Yeah. So
I think that starts too with admin. I know at the beginning of the year, this year I was in new schools, two new schools, and there was just a lot of, felt very much like there was a barrier. And so my second conversation with the principal, we were talking and I think it's all in the way you frame it. And I just, you know, a lot of schools can't afford to have additional literacy support. And so how great is it that the state is providing you, free to you, support for all of your teachers. And the principal just immediately, she attached to that. And that really impacted the mindset that she had towards coaching. And that was reflected really well in how she presented things with teachers. So being able to meet with teachers and already, like, it was a positive. And I've been really lucky to be in schools that were receptive, but just like Lauren was saying, as the year goes on, as they're seeing fruit from what they're doing in their students' work, that's the buy-in. Because it's not about what I'm doing, it's about what I'm helping you be able to do for your students. And so that's been the biggest piece that I've seen.
And I always say, like, I'm not here asking you to trust me when I walk in the door, but what I'm asking you to do is let me earn your trust. So I lay out a very clear process for how I'm going to do that, like how I'm going to earn your trust, and this is the process we're going to move through. I love a good system, so I tend to systemize everything. I have systemized
I like a good
trust,
system.
you know, like, but that's where I come in, and I'm like, I'm not asking you to just follow me blindly. We're going to be really clear and transparent and purposeful.
Can I have you come in to the legislature and work on some systems?
Trust systems and
So if I was to add to that, because I love that word system, and y'all hear me talk about this journey of how we've redesigned our educational system in this state. And a lot of people may not understand why it was so important to get aligned. I always like to say bad systems beat good people every time. It wasn't that we weren't working hard. People were working hard for students, but they were working in a broken system. And we spent a lot of time rewriting standards, a lot of time rewriting a new assessment, right? Test items on how we're gonna monitor student performance and measure whether or not they're mastering the standards, and then built a whole new accountability system on how we're gonna reflect to the community the progress of a school, A through F. And that system, it took a while to build, but now we're implementing the system. And when we look at like a school grade that really looks at our kids learning, are they graduating? Like we've made it honing in, and we're giving them real-time information based on standards on student performance. My wonder is are the conversations now changing? Are principals asking different questions because they're being held accountable to a different system? Or are teachers asking questions? Because I've heard anecdotally, like when we say we're measuring student growth of the lowest quartile, people are like, how do we find out who in the lowest quartile? I'm like, how do we not know who our most struggling students are? Like, what is that? What is like this system changing? Some of you in the middle of your 30-year journey with us, like we've built a whole new system. I think it's a world-class system. I think it's a state-of-the-art system. I think we're now the envy of a lot of other states with our system. But are we seeing people now focusing or being more targeted and explicit on those supports? That's my hope. I hope that you're going to say yes, but I think it's a fair question.
Yeah, go ahead.
In my experience of working with administrators, it has pushed them to be more reflective and becoming instructional leaders and
Right.
to guide them through that process of what are the type of reflective questioning that we can use with our teachers to get them to reflect more on student data or the rigor of instruction that is happening in the classroom. My experience from the beginning is the principals, yes, they have an idea of what instruction should look like, but they're really not clear. And that key lever tool has been an important piece in developing our administrators' understanding of what is good quality instruction.
So can you go deeper on what the key lever tool is? Like, what does that mean? Like, what did we do as a state? No pressure.
So we have a key lever tool that is indicators of good quality instruction, and we look at pockets of structures for learning, teacher-directed instruction, is it aligned content, is there student practice, and is assessment and differentiation. So there's things that we're looking for when we go in with administrators. They go in with us every month, and then after we do an instructional round, we come back and we debrief. And one of my big pushes this year has been having the principal provide the evidence. If they say yes, what evidence
I love that.
supports you saying yes?
That's right.
And having those conversations, because it started, they would say yes, and then you ask where's the evidence, and then there wasn't anything to back that was really happening.
That's
in the
awesome.
classroom. So it has changed their thinking also to be more of an instructional leader than just the administrator side of things.
Do they get frustrated when you ask for the evidence?
Yeah. We're pushing. We're gonna push. Keep pushing.
So I had an administrator tell me, like, I feel bad because I've told my teachers to do some of these things. And now he's, reframing some of his mindset. So then those teachers are now looking at that through the lens of, like, if he can reframe his idea of, I can reframe my idea of. But he's told me that phrase. Lauren loves to say, yeah, but. And so we have those conversations.
But they are beginning to look at that is, how are we going to sustain this when you're not here to support us? So that's really changed the mindsets. How do we keep this momentum going when you're no longer with us?
I think
We are
Katie
so
was
excited about LEARNS and its focus on literacy. And a lot of schools and administrators, they realize that this is the area that they need to work on, and what they've been doing has not been working. And so a lot of times they have the question in their minds, what exactly do we need to do? So that's when we're able to come in and we're able to do the walks, we're able to sit down with the leadership team and talk about those next steps, looking at the data, looking specifically at student work, and coming up with ways that we can partner with them and work with our teachers to give them that support. We do that through a lot of our unit internalization and lesson internalizations. That's when we're looking at their lessons that they have coming up. We look at the assessments and how we're going to get those students successful in bite-sized pieces in each day of what they're going to be doing. We think about the misconceptions that students may have. We think about how we can put the goals that we have in our walks, how we can put that in our lessons with student practice, and how we can have that teacher-directed instruction. What are we doing to make sure that we're setting our students up to be successful? So when they see that we are hands-on helping them to make a difference, that helps with the attitude. And then the next time when we're going through with the walks with them, they're more open to answer questions. Let's come to the table again. Let's continue to support the teachers. What can we do next to help them, help those positive student outcomes?
I heard a rumor about you.
Oh.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that you are recently now Dr. Stone. Yay, congratulations. That's a big deal.
Yeah. Right. I didn't know where he was going with that. So I was like, when
You were like
Jacob
hiding
starts
away.
Doing that, I was like slowly moving my chair.
Yeah,
to the
just
other
sliding over to
side,
Carol.
So you never know. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, Tiffany's gonna kick me under the table if I like she.
That's why we put her next to him, is so that he has constant supervision. So, yeah.
I think
Katie,
Kate-
I was
yeah,
gonna say,
so
were
I
you
think
about
Katie
to say
was gonna
something a
say
minute
something.
ago?
I was just thinking about the conversations with admin that I've seen change in my own building, where superintendents are coming to the table and we're getting to have conversations about, hey, who are our lowest 25? Do the teachers know by name who these students are? And then now what's the plan? And so there's accountability being put into place where it wasn't before. So that has been a nice change, and we're working to see, okay, how does that morph into the rest of the year? What does that look like long term? But I just, with your point, having those conversations with admin when we go into classrooms together and we're all aligning and saying the same thing over and over again, I think helps to build that trust with teachers too. They're not getting one message from us and a different message from
That's
their
important.
Yeah. What are y'all seeing in terms of, with this being the first year that the third grade to fourth grade advancement piece is going into effect from LEARNS? What's the reaction? Are people more motivated, or do they seem more frustrated, afraid? What's kind of the, and I know that it'll be mixed depending on individual students and individual schools, but what's kind of been the general experience and feedback that you're getting with this going into effect this year? And are you seeing movement of your students and greater engagement of teachers and administrators because of it?
Yes, in my building, we have a very focused sense of urgency that we can't wait. We need to know where our kids are in the moment and what are we doing if they're not moving. The teachers have taken on the challenge of how can I make the curriculum a bit more rigorous? How can I make sure that students are getting practice, independent practice every day, reading, writing, thinking, speaking, so that they are prepared for that test. The parents have been on board with it, and it's been received pretty well where I'm at.
Yeah, I've heard anecdotally from principals and superintendents that are saying they're getting more parent engagement when they call and say, hey, your child's at risk of maybe not being promoted to fourth grade. We need to work together. You need to bring them into the tutoring programs, read at home, and that the parents are really stepping up. Like, I don't know if you're hearing that as well, but I thought that was pretty encouraging. I don't know if.
Hope that we sent that out to every third grade parent.
Okay.
Nobody felt singled out.
Right.
They're in danger of having some problems in the spring. Before, we would have waited till the spring to say that. So they did that in the fall. So that
For me, I think my school, they realized that it's just not the third grade teacher's
That's right.
responsibility. It's going all the way
That's
back
right.
to kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, and making sure that we're trying to fill those gaps before they get to third grade.
Yeah.
Actually, I love that you said that because that's exactly what I was thinking. Conversations I've had, it seems always really focused on third grade, but really with the teachers, first grade and second grade in one of the schools I work with, they made comments of, those are our students. That's on us. And really looking at standards with that too. That's really helped with the work that we brought in. It just everyone's working hard. Like, everybody's working hard. It's just streamlining what we're doing, what that work looks like in impact for student learning. I think it's removing the I feels from all of our language, working with administrators, and then asking teachers the same thing. So when we're talking about our students, talking about what they can do, I feel like they can do this. I feel like, what do we see? What evidence do we have? What data do you have to show that? Because they get 1 year in your grade, and then we're moving on to those next standards. And so I do think it's important to really, for those teachers, I think they feel it. They feel that importance that those are our students.
It's collective.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's shifting the focus to like preventative medicine.
That's right.
Yeah.
We've got the space that's like early intervention. We've said it for years, but what does that look like in the bigger system? So it's shifting that focus to let's prevent it from getting bad. Yeah.
And also shifting the focus with instruction, more rigorous instruction, understanding what the standards mean, and really what is the rigor of that standard. And just because they're 5 doesn't mean you still can't hold them to a rigorous standard that's appropriate for a 5-year-old.
Are more people taking advantage of the tutoring grants, especially with the increase of going from the 500 to 1,500? And is that sufficient to cover what most students need at this point?
I mean, in my school, they are encouraging, and they're setting up computers to have them to log on to help the parents. I mean, as far as the money, I don't know that aspect. I know that all of my teachers, almost all of them, signed up to also be a tutor, which is good. That way, to me, that way they're getting the same information to the student.
Yeah, and I've even talked with superintendents. I usually meet with superintendents and folks, and say, why we have students that could benefit from tutoring. Why aren't you building a program and becoming a vendor? I don't know if that's the right word. And working with your teachers, you can get $1,500 a kid, and they're all like, "We can do that." Yes, like there's still just a lack of knowledge about the program, and we're trying to ramp that up and make sure people know and are aware. So I think that model is something we also need to share, and as you're meeting with your principals and your teachers to encourage them to take advantage of that opportunity. And there's a lot of schools, like I was, because I just recently visited all of our F districts and was talking to them, and they're doing after school tutoring, right? Like on their own, out of their own budget. And I was like, you realize most of these kids could qualify and you can get $1,500 for the kid, and the superintendent's like, I like money, and I didn't know I could do that. It was like blown away. And I was like, yeah, now you can expand it to more kids. And he's like, we're doing it. Like, so we just gotta, it's new, right? And a lot of people may not know about it, but we can push that. That grassroots effort is going to come from us.
Yeah, I was in a school where a principal was celebrating. She had got all of her third graders signed up in the first round. She said, I called every parent and I told them, meet me up here. I'll help you work through this application. We can get on a computer. And she was so excited. And then she called me and said, hey, I've got my people signed up. And she said, I'm waiting on the next round. When is it coming? I said, it's coming very soon. And it's out there now. But I think just being in buildings, mentioning it, saying, hey, have you taken the opportunity? How can I help? Has really helped even when I'm in buildings. And so then they follow up with us to say, we're building a system around this.
That's right.
And saying, can I use any vendor? Can I recommend vendors to my parents? I said, absolutely. If they don't know about vendors, you can share that information. But that was a celebration for that principal. She was really happy that the parents responded to her call. And they came instantly, and she even sent me a picture like, here's a parent up here right now. After I called, she's like, should I come now? And she was like, yeah, come now. So I think that's just, it's excitement that it's available and that there are resources there. And I think our coaches are doing a great job. Thank you, Governor Sanders, for pushing for that and to just giving them more money to do it. I think people are really excited when they hear the number 1,500. They're like, that's a lot
significant.
of money. And so it's been a great experience to share that with our leaders and to hear them celebrate that parents are responding. So I think really changing the system and the mindset around response systems, that's really helping. Like it's adding to our response system.
It's been important to seize the opportunities when you have parents face-to-face too. So setting up computers on literacy night, parent-teacher conferences, like you said, like removing those barriers to really assist the parents. And it's an easy setup and making sure that they have computers that they need and everything too. Even, car rider line, hey, let me tell you about this opportunity.
Right. Since you're
Captive
here.
audience.
Yeah.
Speaking of broken systems, there's maybe nothing else that's more broken than the car pickup at schools. And if we could, maybe that'll be like, term two, we'll take on the broken system. No matter how many times you tell a parent, stay in your car, do not get out, they will come to you. Somebody gets out and holds up the whole line.
I'm always impressed with the parent that shows up at noon for a 4 o'clock dismissal to be the first one in line.
First one in line.
Like, wow, your baby can't wait. Like, we got it.
Somehow that's not happening at our house.
Oh, it's not. You're just rolling in at the end.
We've never been the noon pickup crowd. Yeah. What do you guys need more of? If you could have, one more thing, one additional area of support or investment or resource, what would it be?
I think the opportunity, some of us have more than one one school. I think having the opportunity to only have one school and be able to focus on that school, and also be able to serve those 4 or 5 teachers. When we're split between 2 schools, we focus on K-3, and the data is showing success in K-3, but not so in 4 or 5 yet. And I think being able to just have one building would be a huge win, and I think the data would show that.
I'm gonna interpret what you said. We need more coaches. Is that what it is? I'm gonna try to just frame this in in English.
Yeah.
We need more of you, right? There's plenty of work to go around. That's what I'm hearing.
How many of you have? Most of you have multiple schools, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, most of them do.
What's the max number that somebody has? 3?
3, yeah.
Huh. So that's not that many more people.
Well, and here, and I think to Ashley's point, and this is kind of a good problem to have, right? We're going to eliminate failure in the state. I am confident. Like, we are going to double down and make sure folks are able to do what they need to do, and we're getting these students what they need. So everybody's assigned to a D or an F school. So every year that those grades come out, we get new DNF schools and we lose some DNF schools, right? So hopefully we lose more than we gain, right? We want to see that pendulum shift. But if a school goes to a C, what's the first call we get?
Right.
Tiffany gets is from the principal or superintendent, don't take my coach away, right? Like, it's working, right? We need sustainability. So then we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we keep them there? Because we don't want them to go backwards. Like, we still want to support schools, especially if they're asking for support. We don't want to say no. But then we added new schools, and we got to see them too. So it's a challenge, right? I mean, when we only got so many people, and we're trying to make it everywhere we can, but it's like, as we're moving forward with implementation, there's got to be like that sustainability plan. Like, what's the role of a coach as we do like maybe a gradual release, and it's not like overnight, like, congratulations, you're a C, see you later, right? Like, that's what C stands for, see ya, right? Like, that's the world of a coach. So those are things we're working on, right? And I think that's fair. I don't know if y'all would say that as well. Yeah, I see some head nods.
How much of that, like, can the individual schools, as you're in a school and you're working with different teachers, can you identify somebody that could take on sort of the role that you're currently filling, that you're mentoring that person through, and can help, like, us, because you're there every day, so you see who's figuring out what you're doing, putting it into practice, and can then carry the torch so that when they hit that kind of achievement and growth places and they're turning from D's to C's, you can move to the next school and that person can step in and help continue your work.
Well, that's what happened. They're in the city right now, and so I try to go maybe twice a month. But I think it goes back to what Wally and Lauren were saying about, you have the principals go in, so they're on board, key levers, but then the teachers see the key levers. They know exactly too what area we're focused on, if it's around content or whatever, and that's our goal. So then we work through that, and then I think with the school there, when I go in a couple times, the principal has been able to identify kind of who is the team lead within those teams, but they work really well together. And he has a system that's like, they come together, they plan. And so me just being able to still support that a couple times, looking at data. They're about to take their atlas in January. So I tend to support them when they get that data out, and how is that going to look. So hopefully they don't backslide. So
I think another interesting, and I actually say this is a good problem to have, is sometimes a lot of the districts are just hiring the coaches directly, right? Like, and I'm okay with that, right?
Are
like
we actually okay with that?
Yeah, because we're putting experts out in the field. Like, but I think to your point, Governor,
They're stealing
about
our talent.
But I think to your point is about how we got to keep identifying the pipeline,
Yeah.
right? Like, we can build this pipeline, and if people's career paths, or maybe they go into leadership, become principals and superintendents, to know that they benefited from this training and this experience. I don't know if it was Patty or Lauren or one of them said about our principals are becoming instructional leaders, right? Like, that's the biggest expectation probably that we're really pushing, because we know teaching matters, leadership matters. And what do they used to say? We focus on balls, budgets, and something else. No, what is happening in classrooms, right? Like, we've got to shift the mindset that you're an instructional leader. So I hope that every one of you one day become a superintendent. One of you hopefully may take my job one day, because you're going to keep pushing the needle. And I'm okay with just keeping this pipeline going. I think it's a good problem to have.
I think that would be a really important thing for kind of our end of year, is that every one of you are identifying for us 2 to 3 people who can help kind of be those leaders at their school. And I like that you mentioned that they kind of got to a place, but then you were still coming back instead of being there, you know, as frequently, but you're still coming in. So there's a little bit of a check and balance. Not that you're, you know, grading them, but you're offering support, showing up, being a person to lean on and still a resource once or twice a month instead of on the same level, so that you can take on other schools and bring them up to speed. But I think that's a really critical next step of this program and this system.
I like that.
Is identifying leaders and then us bringing those people into the fold.
I think that's a group that needs to be addressed too, is our curriculum directors, because a lot of the curriculum directors are in charge of picking the curriculum, but they don't really get in the classrooms and make sure that they're going. And I've had one reach out to me this last week and say, I'm afraid we're gonna come up and you're gonna leave, so can I shadow you and watch you and see how it's going? And so we have a lot of the principal leadership coming with us, but not as much sometimes the curriculum people. Instructional facilitators and those people walking along with us too, I think.
Are these mostly like district folks you're talking about when you say, yeah.
I see this on both ends too, just to bring another perspective. So last year, being in schools that had literacy coaches, that I was able to work with. So I worked really closely with those instructional facilitators, and just, they have carried that work. They came out of support. They have carried that work forward. And I'll get texts all the time. They're like, I know you're not our person. I'm like, I'm your person. I'm not in your school, but like, I'm your person. To this year being in really rural schools, where they don't have, I mean, the entire school district has 3 administrators. And so they don't have that, like there's not a district literacy person. There's not a literacy coach. There's not someone in there doing that. The principal wears a lot of hats. She will let you know all those hats. It's a lot. And so really working, I think, to identify teachers, like you talked about, identify some teachers who can have some capacity for that, but when there's just not the staff, I think we have to come up with more creative.
Well, I think, and I agree. And I think this is where we're having different conversations with the co-ops, right? Like we have educational cooperatives, and we're having very blunt conversations with them about, you're not a customer service company, you are a direct support organization. And when we're writing that district improvement plan on how we're going to improve literacy and instruction, we're writing you into that plan as well. And like when you're talking about like the curriculum directors, like those TCCs, right? Like there's some good folks out there. Like, how do we empower them to understand the levers and do walkthroughs of schools? Because when I talk to a co-op director and they're like, I've never been in that district,